Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Trey Ball. We are at the conclusion of our fifth week of the NBA season, and things are starting to heat up a little bit. Teams are starting to hit their stride. A lot of players are starting to separate themselves from the pack as MVP candidates. We're starting to see who's who and what's what. Early on in the season, it's a little difficult to do that. Everybody's fresh, everybody's feeling themselves, got high hopes for the new NBA season, so everybody's coming out at the gate with a bang. Um, like I said, guys are starting to separate themselves. It's really a who's hot, who's the real contenders, right now, and it's looking like it's going to be a nice close race in the Western Conference right now. Speaking of who's hot, I mean the Utah Jazz riding a 8-game winning streak, beating some pretty good teams in that span. I believe they also have six guys averaging 10 or more points. Very impressive, but I mean, the focus as of late has been the feud between Shaq and Rudy Gobert, and then just recently, Shaq and Donovan Mitchell. I was listening on Thursday night, and it's kind of interesting. I mean, Shaq did make a good point. I mean, you don't have to average 25 to 30 points a night to get a $200 million contract. You can go in there and you can average 12 points, but lead the league in rebounds, block shots, be a great rim protector, be elite at something else other than scoring, and still get $200 million. And while I disagree, this is probably going to be the first case where we actually see that take place. But yeah, like I said, I mean, I do disagree with that because with the Utah situation, it was based on, they needed to keep Rudy. They needed to stick with him. They needed to have them stick with their team, and they couldn't afford to watch him walk. I mean, you let Rudy Gobert walk, the whole base of your defense pretty much crumbles at that point if you don't have your defensive player of the year. So I mean, they did what they had to do for their franchise, and Rudy Gobert's agent did what he had to do for his player, and both sides came to an agreement, and it just turned out to be a $200 million agreement. So the way I see it, Shaq's being he's being a little petty about it in some ways, but in a lot of ways he's not lying. I mean, you don't have to be James Harden, you don't have to be Kevin Durant or LeBron, to get that $200 million and score 30 points a night. You can be somebody else that's blocking a lot of shots, deterring a lot of people from coming to the hole, and do something that's elite for your team. That's very hard to do in the NBA for other teams, and other players. So you might be the guy getting that big deal. So I mean, I can see his point in that, but it's a slippery slope with the conversation with Donovan Mitchell. Very slippery slope because he does have superstar potential. My only thing is he only shows it in one area of the box score, and that's scoring. I mean, I had to do my research, but craziest stat I've ever seen from a star player of Donovan Mitchell's caliber and skill level. He has one 10-plus rebound game and one 10-plus assist game in his entire career. Not a triple double. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about points, rebounds, assists in the same game. We're talking about he's only cracked 10 assists one time in his career. He's only cracked 10 rebounds one time in his career. I mean, you look at Mitchell, he's one of the most athletic players in the entire league. Definitely one of the more athletic guards. He's a high riser. He can get up off the ground with the best of them. Very quick, very agile. He's a very fast guard with the ball in his hands. I just you would think that his ability to score the ball, he would attract more attention, and he would be able to find guys, spotting up Joe Ingles, Bogdanovich, Mike Conley. There's a lot of guys on this team that could benefit from him facilitating a little bit more, and it just in my mind I'm thinking like, how can you be that talented and gifted and not put up those type of numbers more often than just one time? Just once in his entire career. He's been in the league 4 or 5 years now. So, in my opinion, to be on that level that Shaq's talking about, he has to do those things more often than he has been through the entirety of his career. I mean, his career high is 11 assists, but he has a ton of 9 assist games, 6, 7. assist games. He needs to be more consistent and crossing that plateau if the Utah Jazz are going to make a run towards the NBA Finals. They're looking like a contender right now, like I said, riding an 8-game winning streak, which is very impressive in the Western Conference. But again, you know who's who and who's not. If you're looking at the LA Lakers, they're the who's who of the NBA right now. 13-4. LeBron's rolling. He's playing phenomenal basketball like he always does, right out of the gate. Anthony Davis still yet to hit his stride. But once he does, it's gonna be it's gonna be more of the same of what we saw last year down the stretch and what we saw um, in the NBA playoffs. Just them dominating. They're two guys doing what they do best. And I think Anthony Davis's biggest thing is coming off the high of winning a championship. That's something he's never had to do in his career. So I think that may be his issue. But I think everybody else is playing great. Tavius Caldwell-Pope, he's been shooting lights out. If I'm not mistaken, he's in the high 50, 40, 90 club. Looking at the other Los Angeles team, the LA Clippers, um, you know, they're riding a 7-game winning streak. They're tied with the Lakers at 13-4. Kawhi Leonard is at 29 points, 5.6 assists, 5.6 rebounds, 2 steals, and he's also in that high 50, 40, 90 club, shooting the ball incredibly well. Paul George has had a great start to the season, trying to make everybody forget about the playoff P, or the what did they call him? Was it the pandemic P? The pandemic P, man. Like, how do you give yourself a nickname and not show up when it's crunch time? But hey, he's trying to make everybody forget that. He's trying to rewrite the narrative, and he's off to a great start right now. So are the Clippers. You would think, after the coaching change, losing somebody like Doc Rivers, you might see some fall off. But they're playing great basketball for Ty Lue. Ty Lue's turned himself into a pretty good coach over the course of his career. Getting the experience under his belt. Coaching Kyrie, coaching LeBron, K Love, Thompson. They had a really good team in Cleveland for quite some time. So you get a lot of championship level experience coaching those type of players, and they're off to a great start right now. And I think they can keep it rolling, other than the fact that PG just went down with a slight injury. I don't know how long he's going to be out. Pat Bev also went down with a little tweak. So over the next couple of games, I'm looking at Kawhi to keep the ball rolling, but also I'm looking at Lou Will. He hasn't had the most Lou Will type season yet. I think he's hovering around maybe the 10 points per game area, which he's normally up between 15 and 18. I think the biggest thing for Will is losing Montrezl Harrell. That's his running mate. Both of those guys were contenders for 6th man of the year each and every year when they were playing together. One of the best 1-2 punches off the bench in the league. Probably one of the best 1-2 punches, period, because they're not putting out 25 points apiece, but they are coming in, playing down the stretch, getting you big, making big plays each and every game. I think that was a stick for them. You bring in the goons off the bench and let them go to work for maybe 5 to 10 minutes down the stretch of the game, and Trez will make big defensive plays. They get into the pick and roll action, a little bit of 2-man game, and you can trust Lou Will to do some of the same things you trust PG and Kawhi Leonard to do on the offensive end, which is be a playmaker for other players, get his own shot, get to the basket, run the pick and roll, set up the offense. There's a lot of things that Lou Will is comfortable doing that I'm not really seeing too much of that out of them, and I think it points directly to them missing Trez. But it'll take some time for them to get used to it. Like I said, they're on a 7-game win streak, so it can't be all that bad right now. But at some point, there's going to be certain things that show as glaring weaknesses, and I think the Clippers bench might be one of those glaring weaknesses that they're going to have to address at some point in the season. But I have no doubt with Lawrence Frank and Ballmer that they won't get that in check. I feel like that's imminent. Another team that's been picking up the pace a little bit as of late. You see the Milwaukee Bucks making their way to the top of the conference. They're now 10-6. They did have a loss to the Lakers, but I think that's par for the course. You're playing against an all-time great, and you're playing against a perennial defensive player of the year and MVP candidate in Anthony Davis. it's not going to be an easy cakewalk for you. Even though you have a great team in your own right, you still got to get that job done. And for me, Giannis hasn't been able to do that in big games, on big stages, and big key moments. He hasn't done that yet. He is a two-time MVP. He is a Defensive Player of the Year. But is he a champion? That remains to be seen, because he has the talents, he has the skill set, but he just needs to get to that next level, and I don't think he's ready for that yet. I feel like he's more suited to be a secondary star. Like, look, he's a great player. He's a really great player, but you can't be an MVP of the league and go 1 for 10 at the free throw line. You can't be the MVP of the league, and you can't be trusted with the ball in your hands in late game situations to put your team ahead. You can't be that guy. Then, I mean, we can't trust you to be the guy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I said, it's a slippery slope with Giannis for me, because he is the MVP 2 time back to back. He is the Defensive Player of the Year, but we all still look at guys like Kevin Durant and LeBron and Kawhi and point to them as the real best players in the league because of the things that they do, not only on both sides of the ball, but in late game situations, championship scenarios. We want them to have the ball in their hands. We can't say the same thing about Giannis. So that's still going to be the glaring uh, red light on the Milwaukee Bucks for everybody, who's getting into betting and odds makers and so on and so forth. Can Giannis hit big shots in big moments? So far, the answer has been no. If you're asking the Toronto Raptors and the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics the past 3 seasons, but looking at this upcoming season, I see them being a great regular season team again, like they always are. But I really don't see them doing anything special in the playoffs. Same scenario, they get knocked out in the second round or the third round, and you know, we just ask more questions about Giannis about the following season, like we always do. Um, right now, a team that's in the Eastern Conference team has been kind of surprising to me. Um, I don't know. Well, I guess you could say kind of surprising, because so when you're looking at the 76ers, they go out, they get Doc Rivers, they replace Brett Brown with a Hall of Fame level uh, Coach of the Year, champion, Doc Rivers stature. You pair him with Embiid and Simmons. There was some ideas that Simmons might be shipped out for Harden, but it looks like, for now that move worked out, by keeping Simmons and Embiid together. You go out, you add Danny Green, Seth Curry, two really great shooters. If I'm not mistaken, Seth is one of the league leaders in percentage the past couple seasons. So you add some shooting, you space out the floor a little bit, and right out the gate, Joel Embiid looks like an MVP candidate, top 5 in that scenario. I like the way they play in the game. I like the way they're starting to look like a team that has an identity. That's something you couldn't say when Brett Brown was at the helm. They have an identity now. They have a toughness. They have I don't like to say arrogance, more like a confidence that each and every game they play, they are able to win. It doesn't matter if they're playing a loaded team like the Nets or the Lakers or the Celtics. I mean, looking at the list, I can see they beat Boston 2 games to 0, and they beat Miami 2 games to 0. I mean, both of those teams are a little depleted. Miami has no Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero at the moment. Boston was without Jason Tatum that game, but both of those games. But um, you got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. You have to. And even without, some of those guys, Miami and Boston are two tough teams. You're not gonna, just walk in the gym and blow them out. You have to put them down. It can be tough to score against those teams, and late in games, Joel Embiid was able to take over. Get to the paint, post up, hit a mid-range face-up game. He had it all working from all angles, and Simmons was just keeping the offense flowing, getting up and down, playing great defense. So I really like this team early on. It's going to be nice to see what they do in the playoffs with a new leader at the helm. Um, Portland Trailblazers is another team. They won 6 out of their last 8. Even though they are down CJ and Dirk, I do like what I'm seeing from Dame. He's starting to pick it up a little bit. If I'm not mistaken, he put up 39 the other night against the New York Knicks. Quickly, they had a little nice back and forth, but against the number 1 defensive team, which is, first of all, incredible on Tom Thibodeau's part with the New York Knicks, the number one defense in the league. Uh, Field goal percentage, opponent field goal percentage, opponent 3-point percentage, challenging everybody at the rear, playing tough defense. That old Knicks style is looked to be like it's coming back a little bit for the Knicks, and it's good to see them, playing great basketball. But like I said, number one defense and MVP candidate, Damian Lillard comes in and gives you a near 40 piece, and you know you're not going to be able to stop everybody, but I like the way Dame has been playing the game as of late. I haven't seen him really force everything. A lot of guys get into the mode where when they're down, guys, they just chuck up shots. Dame is still letting the game come to him. He's still playing within the rhythm of the offense. He hasn't been doing a lot of ISO heavy. He's not isolating 30 to 40 times a night. He's coming down in the flow of the offense. Obviously, they're going to call his number pretty much every time to get a bucket, but when you're the best player on the team, that's kind of what, how it goes. And with CJ being out, I look to see Dame hovering around that 30 points per game area a lot more. I think he's at 28 points per game for the season, third in the league behind Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant. But I think that I'll see his numbers climb in the near future because of the responsibility that he has to take on for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Now there's there's a lot of teams I just named several teams that are looking towards the top, but right now, looking at the Washington Wizards hovering around the bottom, it's just like them and the Pistons. Who's going to be the worst team in the Eastern Conference? Detroit's 3-13 right now. Washington's 3-9. They're only 3-9 because they had to take a 2-week layoff for health and safety protocols. So other than that, they would probably be 3-13 themselves, 3-14, something like that. I think they got to trade Beal and Westbrook because first of all, you didn't build a team around those two guys. Second of all, with Westbrook being in and out of the lineup due to health and safety protocols, and then a recent injury, I guess, occurred to Westbrook, so he had to sit him an extra 2 games. So he's missed maybe about 7 games so far this year, and of those 7, I think there may be 2 and 5, something of that nature. That's just not going to get it done. And the thing with Bradley Beal, he can score a lot of points, get a lot of buckets. He can drop 30, 40, 50, 60 on any given night. He has one game he had 60, the next he had 40, and they lost both. In my mind, he's not in that upper echelon. If I see Kevin Durant get 40, 50, or 60, it's 9 times out of 10 going to be in a blowout win or in a very close game down the finish where KD is able to put them away. If I see it from LeBron, like I said, same thing, blowout, or he puts the team away at the end. Steph, blowout, or he puts the team away at the end. There's a lot of guys that have that of impact when they score those big numbers. Beal does not. And also, looking from another perspective, is when you're an elite scorer, you have to be able to do something else to help your team win each and every night. If I'm James Harden, I can have 60, but I can also have a 60-point triple-double with rebounds and assists, which means I'm crashing the boards and also I'm facilitating still while putting up big numbers. If I'm LeBron or Kobe or D-Wade or, some of those other guys, if I'm putting up 50 points, I'm a defensive stopper on the other side of the ball. I'm the best defender on my team. So that's how we're going to win the game. I can be a weak side elite shot blocker like D-Wade. I can be an elite on-ball defender like LeBron or Kobe. There's different things that those guys did that made them not only, challengers to the points per game and the scoring title each and every year, but they were also challengers to the defensive player of the year award at the same time. I think that's what Beal's struggle is. He's not elite at really anything else. He's not an elite defender. He's not an elite rebounder for his size. He's not an elite, weak side defender. He doesn't play passing lanes great. He doesn't have that secondary elite skill that will put him in a superstardom and also propels his team to victory each and every night when he has those big scoring outbursts. He's a phenomenal scorer. One of the best in the league right now that flies under the radar because his scoring doesn't translate to wins. So I mean, you can't put it all on Westbrook. You got to put some of it on Beal, and also I don't think Scotty Brooks is the championship level coach or a Hall of Fame level coach, or I mean, not really an elite level coach that they need to be successful, especially with the roster that they've constructed. I mean, they don't have. I mean, right off the top of my head, I know they have Bertans, I know they have Hachimura, I know they have Ish Smith, Thomas Bryant. Uh, they have some pieces, but those guys that I just named, they will be really good coming off the bench for a team, contributing minutes here and there, giving you 10 to 20, 10 to 15, 15 to 20 minutes a night, being a contributor to the team. But the guys I just named, other than Ish Smith, that's the Washington Wizards starting lineup. You're not going to win at that, especially in the way the Eastern Conference is set up now. You are going to get eaten alive each and every night, and especially also looking at it a step further in the Southwest Division. The Magic are tough teams. The Miami Heat is a tough team. Charlotte's better, especially the way Gordon Hayward's coming back to form, the way he's been playing as of late. And then you have the Atlanta Hawks. That's four tough teams you got to see in your own division 4 to 5 times a year. So that's about what, 12 to 15 games where you're the beyond the clear underdog in that scenario. I mean, that's 15 losses right there for you. Um, Boston, Philly, Milwaukee, Brooklyn. I mean, all those teams are a lot better and a lot more talented. So yes, you have Westbrook, yes, you have Beal, but I mean, you don't have anything else beyond that. So if you can key on those two guys, or one of those guys has a poor shooting night or has a high turnover night, then you're doomed. You're absolutely doomed, and that's what the Washington Wizards are facing right now. I think they should have a fire sale. Send Beal, send Westbrook to teams that need them, um, and start the official rebuild. You can't halfway do it. They've held on to Bill too long. I think they should have got rid of him last year, way before they thought about getting rid of John Wall, even though, I mean, John Wall looks pretty good right now. But you had a healthy asset that you could have traded for the likes of Victor Oladipo, for the likes of James Harden. I mean, anybody of value you could have gotten somebody back, whether it's draft picks or a superstar player, and you missed the opportunity. And I think ultimately missing that opportunity, you just sealed your fate for the playoffs this year, and also getting somebody big back in return the next couple years, knowing that at some point Beal's going to be unhappy and Westbrook's going to be unhappy there, and they'll just have to move them out of frustration, just like James Harden did with the Houston Rockets. So I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot going on in the league right now. I don't want to fail to mention my MVP candidate, Luka Doncic, just playing great basketball, 30-point triple doubles left and right. One of the biggest things for me is health with the Dallas Mavericks. I don't want to see them fall by the wayside. I don't want to see them get into the habit of, resting guys and KP in and out of the lineup. I seen just recently the NBA Power Rankings got sent out. I just posted that 2 days ago on Outside the Playbook. You can check it out and click the link on there, and it'll take you to the full list. But the list shakes out as the Lakers #1, Clippers 2, Jazz 3, 76ers 4, Bucks 5, Celtics 6, Nets 7, Nuggets 8, Suns 9, and Pacers 10. I don't see the Dallas Mavericks anywhere on that list, and you have one of the best players in the league right now putting up 30-point triple doubles. In my mind, that's a little concerning. You should be hovering around that 7 to 10 area in the power rankings if you have that much talent, or even have that type of talented player on your team, because it should be translating to more wins. And looking at the standings right now, I think Dallas is a victim of the injury bug or the scheduling, but right now they're 8 and 9. I think they can definitely turn that around. I think they can catch the Spurs, the Warriors, Suns, and the Grizzlies, and work their way up to the 6th spot. But it's still early, so we're just gonna have to see how things shake out for that team. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the show. Special thanks to Curtis Murphy and Murphy Elite Training for sponsoring this episode. If you want to stay up to date on merchandise or simply update your game, please click the link in the description to stay up to date on all things Murphy Elite Training. Till next time, you know the rules.